Is going on, guys? It's Yoji. During my last stream I planned out 3 potential solo Selffound League starters. A two-handed Slammer, an evasive Trapper and a mana Spellcaster. Surprisingly, the Archmage Spellcaster build won, and Twitch chat decided that mana is the name of the game, and with that build plan in the pocket I began once again my solo Selffound journey. This time in Harvest League and on a beautiful long-necked boomer of a lightning Spellcaster wielding a big two-handed stick to block and crit his enemies. So in this video I will give you some early leveling tips for this staff wielding mana based lightning spellcaster, specifically for non-trade gameplay. For those of you who always wanted to try SSF, but felt really intimidated by jumping into the game without a plan and without trade to make up for mistakes. And let me tell you, if there ever was a good time to start SSF and try it out, it is Harvest League. With just a few seeds I was able to craft extremely nice gear and make the campaign experience very fun so far. Crafting steps that you will be able to replicate easily as well. Maybe some of you might choose to start an SSF alongside with me with the same build, as I will be giving you regular updates on the progress of this character, so that you can follow this leveling guide step by step and get to maps and beyond in solo Selffound. So let's start out. Before Act 1, you need a proper loot filter in SSF, before even starting any build. At least in my opinion. I linked you the one that I'm using below this video so you can use it for this build as well. It highlights spellcaster staves and bases for leveling and shows a few divination cards one might normally hide in trade that we could use later for the build if we happen to find them. Now that we got that out of the way, in the first act you will use Spark linked to Arcane Surge until you get the Arc skill when entering Merveil's Caverns. On your way through the first act you will mainly be looking for a 3-link item with all blue sockets, as well as pick up some staves to craft on with Harvest. The third link for your Spark and later Arc will be added lightning damage, at least for now. From your first Harvest you should use the crafts for Caster Modifiers to try to make a decent spell damage staff before Brutus. Also buy an Orb of Storms gem from Nessa after opening the passage in the Mudflats. Once you get a few lightning crafts from blue seeds, try to make a staff like this one, with +2 to all socketed lightning spell gems. This will make both your Arc or Spark, as well as your Orb of Storms, pack a way bigger punch and make leveling way smoother. Once in Merveil's Cavern, you switch to Arc instead of Spark, and make sure to get the Clarity Aura and the Flame Dash as well, before leaving for Act 2. In Act 2, very strong gems for the build will become available. The Elemental Focus support and the guard skill Arcane Cloak. Elemental Focus will replace Arcane Surge on the Arc 3 link. Instead, Arcane Surge goes over to Arcane Cloak and supports that skill instead. This guard skill eats up a lot of your mana to grant you a defensive shield as well as added lightning damage to all your spells. The damage and shield are both proportional to the mana used. The mana cost makes triggering Arcane Surge with it super easy, and the buff is overall just very powerful. If you have extra links, you should also link your Orb of Storms with a second copy of Elemental Focus, as well as added lightning damage. Do not use the Controlled Destruction support. While it does provide good damage, it will prevent critical strikes, so we won't proc Elemental Overload. On your way through Act 2 and 3, try to get a hold of and hold onto 1 or 2 4-linked items with all blue sockets. You can also use Harvest crafting options from Purple Seed to change colors on items, Yellow Seeds to increase socket numbers on items, and the blue seeds to link items. And of course put some good stats on your 4-linked items because you will be using them a while. And then at level 31 in Act 3, 2 new powerful support gems will become available. One of them is Archmage, and the other one is Lightning Penetration. You will want to link both of those supports to Arc and Orb of Storms if possible. So both skills now will be linked to Archmage, Elemental Focus and Lightning Penetration. You do not need any added lightning support gems anymore after this point. Archmage increases the mana cost of the skills by a lot, so make sure you have a fair amount of mana nodes on the passive tree by now, some plus mana on a few items as well as a mana flask of your current appropriate level. In turn, Archmage adds a lot of lightning damage to skills proportionate to the mana cost. I will talk about the passive tree route at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. If you have some spare sockets, you could link your Flame Dash with a second wind support, which you can get from the library quest as well. Now the added damage from Archmage is actually so high that it can easily exceed even the base damage of the skill itself at this point. That in turn makes the +2 spell gem levels from our staff worse in comparison to simply having a good amount of increased spell or increased lightning damage on the weapon as well as some cast speed. So try to craft a new staff on your way through the rest of Act 3 and into Act 4, with increased spell damage or lightning damage as well as some cast speed. Harvest is really good for that. Once you defeat Calm and Daresso in Act 4, you will gain access to the last batch of support gems. There are 2 interesting options here for this build: Unleash support and Spell Echo support. You will want to replace Lightning Penetration on your Arc with one of the two gems. You should keep the Lightning Penetration gem however, as it will be your 4th support gem once you get a 5-linked item. I believe both Unleash and Spell Echo can be a good choice, but they make for very different playstyles. I am currently using Unleash myself, but I am leveling both gems, and I will try both out and decide which playstyle I prefer eventually. Spell Echo makes it so you cast Arc twice with higher cast speed, while only paying the mana cost once, letting us gain the Archmage bonus twice without spending double the mana. But each hit also deals a bit less damage, and overall this makes for a very spammy and fast casting playstyle. Unleash will stack up so-called seals over time, while you are not casting Arc. When you then cast Arc, it will, well, unleash an extra cast of Arc for each seal stored up, and it can store up to 4 seals with the appropriate passive tree node. This results in a hit and run playstyle where you cast very potent bursts of damage with breaks in between. Try them both out and see which one works better for you. Orb of Storms definitely synergizes better with Spell Echo, but Unleash has the option of later using a different single target setup, like for example Ball Lightning. After I got my level 38 support gems in Act 4, I will usually do the Labyrinth and ascend my character. In this case we choose Hierophant and decide to pick up Divine Guidance first, for some defense as well as mana scaling our spells from Transfiguration of Mind. From Act 5 onwards you mainly try to keep your resistances close to 75, get some life and mana on as many gear pieces as you possibly can, and try to get a 5-link body armor and staff. So if a decent 6-socketed armor drops with all blue sockets, keep it. You might get a 5-link craft from Blue Harvest Seeds, which will allow you to link Lightning Penetration to your Arc as well. Or you get a 6-socketed staff, but be careful with staves and try not to 5-link a War Staff, as those are for melee builds and they won't roll the spellcasting modifiers you want on them. Now for the passive tree for the early levels. So for the passive tree you path through this damage first, pick up some life and get these nice damage nodes as well as some resist from Holy Dominion, path through the life nodes here, and then you have the choice of either going all the way around here, which will later save you some regret orbs, as we will eventually pick up this crit, this staff crit, these staff nodes here, power charge, some arcane capacity as well as some chaos damage and life. But if you want to level faster and level more smoothly and you don't mind spending some regret orbs for this path later, you can path directly through here and pick up Elemental Overload as fast as you can. As I mentioned, we pick up Divine Guidance first, secondly we go for Illuminated Devotion, and lastly we go for Arcane Blessing. And the 4th one, once we convert to a crit build, will be Conviction of Power. After picking up LA Overload, you path all the way down here and pick up Dynamo, which will make your Arcane Cloak so much more powerful and smoother and better to use. And then I path through all the way to Battle Rouse, which then allows us to pick up Mind Over Matter without feeling bad about our mana sustain. If you are going the Unleash route, you will want to pick up Thunderous Salvos for the +1 Unleash seal. And if not, you can just route this way to pick up these nice mana and life nodes, pick up some mana up here, some more life up here, and route through this crit to make LE Overload proccing a bit better. That's basically the whole leveling tree so far. Eventually the build will go crit, will go for Glancing Blows and Agnostic as defensive options, and I think overall will become a very well-rounded solo Selffound character. I hope some of you will level along with me on this build in SSF. Subscribe for more Path of Exile content. Thank you as always to all my Patreon supporters. I'm Yoji, and I will see you soon.